Never have I ever done so little work. January. It had been Devi who had showed Neil Thompson round Sherman Oaks High, had asked her about how she was getting to school, showed her the timetable, helped her organize what she needed for sports, and had asked her over the past fortnight how Neil was settling in. It was now Devi who was sitting before her with Ben Gross, caught up in the notes they had brought with them, the papers and books. No undisclosed coolness between the two of them, Neil noticed. She wished she hadn't. Of the interaction that was to come, Neil wished she had actually said nothing at all to either Ben or Devi, but had sat before them and agreed with everything. It would have made her evening, her semester, her entire life, different to what it was to become. Monday had come quickly. One overnight with Ashley on Saturday had made Neil tired, and now, as then, she didn't say much as they went over one of their assignments with her, showing what they had written and the percentage grade each had got, both 100%. "What do you think?" Devi's face was open, questioning, genuinely seeking an answer. It would be the most information she had sought of Neil since she had started. If she were honest, and Neil was about to be, she didn't like either of the approaches Ben and Devi had taken. It seemed confusing. What were the factors that led up to the gold rush in California in 1849? It hadn't helped that Neil had been late to their study session, Ben looking theatrically at his watch as she approached. Neil had been asked to stay behind by the social studies teacher to ask her what community project she was going to do in order to pass the class. "You can get a B without, but with a project, that will bring you up to an A, as long as your essay is comprehensive enough," Miss Miller had told her. "Have a think about what you would like to do for both," had been the teacher's parting words to Neil, as she tried to press details from her. "I am sorry I am late," she told them. "So are we," Ben told her, his eyes wide in the lazy mockery she would eventually come to know well. Now, Neil didn't respond, but instead, set out her notes and pen on the desk, ready to listen. Noticing that Devi staring obviously to Ben, who mouthed something back, and glanced at Neil. He saw she was looking, but did not respond. It had been like this since she started, subtle glances and nods. Ben went through his essay after that, looking carefully at his work and relaying the relevant information, as did Devi, and now the girl was looking at Neil expectantly, waiting for her to answer. "You both just put down the facts," she told them. Both nodded, enthusiastically. "No, I mean, you've put down the facts about the gold rush, clearly in a systematic way," Neil pointed out. But where was the discussion? Why had the miners moved to California? The obvious, the wealth, aside? What were the economic factors in the places they had come from that had driven them there? Was it inevitable that people had come from the East Coast, traveling round Cape Horn and into the Pacific to seek their fortune? What might have prevented others from making the same journey? "That's it," Ben told her. "You have the facts. You need to present them." He picked up his essay and held it vertically against the table, banging the bottoms of the sheets together to tidy up his work. "And, the analysis?" Ben and Devi exchanged looks. "You just have to express yourself." Neil sighed internally. Of course, as long as it was represented by a song or a rap or a mock of an app. Style over substance. "You need to contribute your own ideas." "Facts?" Neil asked, doubtfully. "Well, yeah," Devi told her. "You need to contribute to this." "I don't think you'd like to hear what I have to say," Devi told them, clicking the top of her pen a few times. Devi and Ben looked at one another. "I am sure that we would," Devi told her, as Ben stared at her. She should have known better by now that disagreeing with anything Ben said would cause him to snipe back. And it didn't even need to be wrong, or factually incorrect. It could be as simple as a different opinion. He had spoken over her factually correct statements about the gold given to the United States from Britain before it entered the war in Europe. He had disputed with her over the loan that Britain had to take out before Roosevelt would even speak to Churchill, all because he had never heard about them before, and because none of the class, nor the history teacher had ever heard about them before either. She had been shot down with, "I am glad you have your truth," even when she had air-dropped the web links that quoted both governments, and the "yeah, buts" came next. Tired old tropes about Britain being this, or Britain being that. Neil knew that rebutting each and every one with citations would make not one jot of difference. She had to get her grade up in order to get through the year, in order to get out of the place, so she resolved to be well-mannered and polite. But history was not just a list of facts. She would die on that hill, and may well do. Just as science built on hypotheses to be challenged, so did history. So, she explained what she thought needed to be in the essay. But that is not what we gave been asked to do, Ben told her, a laugh in his voice. What do you think we've spent our time doing, going over our reports when you're just gonna ignore them? I'll adapt what they've told me, put in what I think, Neil told herself, as Ben got to his feet. But he didn't leave it there. I mean, come on, little Miss Brit, if you knew it all, why are we both here? Our time is valuable. I didn't ask you to, Neil shot back. Ben rolled his eyes towards Devi. Come on, Devi, Ben told her, glaring at Neil. Forgetting, Neil noticed his usual habit of calling her David. We'll leave her here to do what she wants. But don't come running back to us when you get a D. I won't, Neil shot back, grabbing her things. If your ego is so fragile that you can't handle constructive criticism, at least I'm not getting myself arrested for crossing the street. A low blow, highlighting the obviousness that Neil was not American. All she had done was got off the city bus and crossed the road. It happened to be that a policeman had stopped her as she tried. No, ma'am, stop. The man had shouted, and rushed to catch her arm. I am dreadfully sorry, Neil told him. A crowd of students, attracted to anything illicit, concentrating around a spot directly opposite Neil and the policeman, watching her taking the gun at his hip. What was I doing wrong? Oh, his demeanor changed and warmth filled his voice, and the policeman let go of Neil's arm. You're British, huh? Yes, agreed Neil, and told him that she was at school across the road. My father is a professor at Caltech. You should know that jaywalking is an offense. You need to cross at the crossing points. The policeman indicated the traffic lights at the end of the block. I am sorry, Neil said again. Is that for every road? Every road in America? Every road in America, the policeman confirmed, slowly and patiently. No harm done, this time, he added. Mind you have a good day. You too, officer, Neil replied. The late night had caused her to miss the 7:30 bus. The next one had to do, and Neil would have to deal with being late. The street. You broke the law trying to cross, remember? He tapped at the side of his head. In Britain, we are trusted to cross the road anywhere, Neil told Ben, hotly. 5-year-olds are taught how to cross the road, and they do. Can't you manage it, Ben grows? People aren't allowed to be in the way of cars, Ben shot back, taking a step towards Neil. The driver can sue. Well, in Britain, the driver is always at fault. They are taught to avoid pedestrians. And this is the land of the free? Neil hadn't meant to say it, and instead of recoiling when Ben was up in her face, she stood her ground. We are free to cross our roads where we like. See there, Ben told her. Like I told you, Devi, Brits are rude. Before Neil had a chance to reply, Ben had pushed past her, causing Neil to lose all her belongings. Come on, Devi, he added, ignoring Neil's scrabbling on the floor. Good, Neil thought, as Ben and Devi left. Devi, Neil noticed, at least had the decency to look sorry as she retreated. Though she retreated she had done. She stopped collecting up the last of her pens as the door of the dining hall swung closed behind them. He had been like that since she had begun. Snide remarks, comments about Britain,